In the United States, we have a system of funding biomedical research that depends primarily on the National Institutes of Health, part of the federal government. And in that system, we compete against each other as scientists in a peer review mechanism, where I, for example, might serve on what we call study sections. So I would sit on the study section with other faculty from other universities, and we would review proposals from people who want to do research. And we would rank them on their scientific merit. And the impact of that on my own research, for example, is that 98% of my research is funded through that mechanism. I get virtually no funds from industry, from any other outside source. So all the research I do, I make publicly available. Increasingly, in fact, it's sort of written into the agreements with the NIH, because I work on the human genome. And human genetic information, we went over the last 10 years, we've been through a good evolution, where we've gone from attempts by some people to actually patent individual variation in our own genes and say, you know, we own it. Or I, as a scientist, went to a company and said, you help me patent it so we can own it. And most of us in the scientific community have said, this is public information. If I find an interesting variation in one or another person that increases their risk of disease, I make that publicly available so that other investigators can look at the same information, try to repeat it. If then someone wants to take that information and try to develop a drug that impacts on that finding, that's done by an outside group, by a pharmaceutical company, and I, for one, don't have anything to do with it. Now, there are temptations, particularly when you're treating people and you're frustrated with treatment, to get involved with pharmaceutical companies in testing new therapies, where you're constantly challenged. I think morally, and as a responsible individual, a responsible physician, what can you and can you not do that's good medicine? And we have institutional review boards for that reason, who are increasingly watchful so that every patient that's treated with a new drug or experimental drug in our medical school and in most medical schools around the country, every protocol has to be reviewed and approved. You cannot make exceptions. You cannot bring in one person at the expense of another. You know, so the goal is to keep medicine as pure as possible in its delivery and research and development.